Columbia, we're just a short paddle from LNG Canada, the country's first ever large-scale liquefied natural gas export facility. It's a big deal.
You don't get a lot of firsts these days, but for the first time, Canadian liquefied natural gas is heading overseas. Fuel from the LNG Canada export terminal in Kitimat, BC, is now sailing towards.
Demand is, in the case of LNG, Asia is the primary market, but now Europe, with the loss of Russian gas, is also a significant market.
It's almost inevitable that Canada becomes a top LNG player.
After years of waiting and dozens of canceled projects, Canada's first liquefied natural gas, or LNG, export facility is finally up and running.
It's quite gratifying to see something's finally come to fruition.
Canada has quietly redrawn the map of global energy, and most people in North America still have not noticed. On June 30th, 2025, a ship named the Gaslog Glasgow departed from the western port of Kitimat, British Columbia. It carried 2.66 million tons of liquefied natural gas. But what it really carried was a new future. For the first time in history, Canadian natural gas is being exported directly to Asia, bypassing pipelines, bypassing tariffs, and bypassing the long shadow of US political leverage. It is a story of independence, of strategy, and of timing, because while Canada sails east, Washington tightens its grip west. As of March 4, 2025, the United States imposed a 25% tariff on most Canadian exports and a 10% tariff on energy goods, including natural gas. These measures arrived even after both sides agreed to delay trade action by 30 days. The result? Panic inside the Canadian energy sector. For decades, nearly 100% of Canada's natural gas exports flowed south through American pipelines. In 2024 alone, those shipments generated $8 billion in revenue, but all of that rested on a single gate. And that gate just slammed shut. YouTube is not the biggest fan of content like this, but we believe people deserve to hear the truth. If you agree, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us beat the algorithm and keep going. We really appreciate the support. The pressure to find a new way out was immense, and so came the rise of LNG Canada, a $40 billion mega-project located in Kitimat. LNG Canada is the first large-scale export terminal for liquefied natural gas in the country's history. Developed by a joint venture including Shell, Petronas, PetroChina, Mitsubishi, and Kogas, it converts natural gas into a chilled liquid form that is 600 times smaller in volume. This makes it possible to ship vast quantities across oceans without a single pipeline. And now it is operational. With the Coastal GasLink pipeline running 670 kilometers from Dawson Creek to the Pacific coast, Canadian gas now flows straight to tankers. The journey to Japan or South Korea takes just 10 days. That is half the time of the traditional Panama Canal route. But time is only one piece of the puzzle. Cost is another.
So Ottawa says LNG Canada is the largest private sector investment in Canadian history. Quite a statement. The faculty can produce up to 14 million tons of gas per year. So how does that translate into economic benefits for Canada?
Well, as you know, it addresses two key priorities for the Carney government. One, trade diversification, which is the new mantra in response to Trump's tariffs. 97% of Canada's gas and oil exports, and that is the country's leading export, go to the United States. And that hampers us in two ways. First of all, our oil and gas trades at a significant discount in the U.S. market.
The liquefaction facility is powered by British Columbia's clean hydroelectricity, reducing carbon emissions and making the project one of the lowest carbon LNG operations on Earth. Environmental credibility is no longer a bonus. It is the price of entry. Asia's major economies, Japan, South Korea, and China, are racing to replace coal and Russian gas with clean, geopolitically neutral LNG. Japan alone plans to add 20 million tons of LNG imports by 2026. South Korea is expanding its storage capacity by 50%. China has signed long-term deals to lock in supplies for the next decade. And now, Canada is directly in the mix. This was never just about exports, it was about liberation. For decades, Canada sold gas through U.S. pipelines, under U.S. pricing and increasingly under U.S. political conditions. The 10% energy tariff from Washington was a turning point. It exposed a hard truth: dependency is vulnerability. Now, with over 170 voyages planned annually to Asia, Canada is shedding that dependency. The stakes are massive. LNG is not only used for power generation. It fuels chemical plants, heats homes, and underpins national energy strategies. It is also a strategic commodity that determines leverage in global negotiations. That is why the LNG Canada project was designed not only for volume, but for longevity. Its 2 liquefaction trains will produce 14 million tons of LNG per year, and discussions are underway to double that figure to 28 million tons. If approved, Canada would become one of the top 5 LNG exporters in the world. Yet this rise did not come easy. Northern British Columbia's terrain is harsh, construction costs are high, environmental standards are stricter than almost anywhere else on Earth. But through it all, Canada has turned those challenges into strengths. More than 5.88 billion Canadian dollars in contracts have been signed with local businesses and the Haisla First Nation. Over 50,000 workers have been employed over 7 years. Indigenous contractors have received equity stakes in the Coastal GasLink project itself, blending economic inclusion with cultural preservation. This is not just energy, it is nation building. But the race is not over. Qatar, Australia, and the United States dominate global LNG supply. For Canada to carve out lasting market share, it must maintain its reputation for reliability, speed, and low emissions. Every 10-day voyage from Kitimat saves tens of millions of US dollars in shipping costs, and every contract signed without a pipeline proves that tariffs are no longer the only game in town. Still, there are risks. Expanding to 28 million tons will require tens of billions more in capital investment. Provincial governments have offered carbon tax and sales tax incentives, but critics worry about corporate social responsibility and long-term community benefit. And then there is Washington. While Canada builds eastward ties, the United States may respond with even tighter trade policy. Phase 2 of LNG Canada could either trigger cooperation or provoke retaliation. The question now is not whether Canada has a place at the table, it is whether it can hold that place against both competition and pressure. As new tankers depart for Yokohama, Busan, and Singapore, each ship carries more than liquefied gas. It carries the possibility of a Canadian future that is less dependent, more influential, and strategically aligned with a world shifting away from fossil politics. In the end, this is not about tariffs, it is about transformation, a pivot from the pipeline to the open sea, and Canada has already cast off. Let us know what you think in the comments, and do not forget to subscribe to Auto News and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest political economic updates.